Bills Mafia, it is officially here. Training camp has kicked off, pads are almost on, and day one is already in the books. And folks, even on a soggy, rain-soaked field that made life miserable for basically everyone involved, there was plenty to get excited about. So let's break down exactly what went down on the very first day of Buffalo Bills training camp, because there is a lot to unpack. Let's start with the obvious, the weather. This was not a picture-perfect sunny opening day. This was a wet, soggy grass field, the kind of conditions that make footing difficult, make the ball slick, and honestly, just make everything a little bit uglier than it normally looks. But even with all of that working against them, the energy on the field was undeniable. According to those in attendance, nothing about the weather could dampen the excitement of finally getting back out there. And once you looked past the conditions, there were plenty of good things to take away from this opening session. One of the very first things that stood out was just how fresh and fast this roster looked. The defensive line in particular drew a lot of attention. Landon Jackson looked noticeably bigger. Zayon Durant looked thick and compact. TJ Parker already looked like he fits right in with this group. It was one of those days where, even though the wet conditions kept guys from truly opening up and going full speed, you could still see the athleticism jumping off the field. But maybe the single biggest storyline of day one had nothing to do with scheme or depth charts. It had everything to do with one player's recovery. Michael Hogt was out there full go, running around like a man who never suffered a serious injury at all. And that is nothing short of remarkable when you consider what he's coming back from. Hogt tore his Achilles late last October, and he is stepping onto this practice field just 9 months removed from that injury, looking like his old self. For context on just how significant that is, not all Achilles tears are created equal. Hogt's tear happened in the middle of the tendon, which tends to be a more manageable recovery. Compare that to teammate Dwayne Carter, who ruptured his Achilles right off the heel last August, an injury that's considerably more difficult to bounce back from. Both stories are worth following closely, but Hogt being full go this early is a legitimately encouraging sign for a Bills defense that needs him healthy and disruptive. Speaking of Dwayne Carter, he was another name that turned heads on day one, but for a completely different reason. The man has clearly transformed his body. 2 years ago, before his own Achilles issue, Carter was playing around 298 pounds. Now, he is reportedly playing somewhere in the range of 315 to 320 pounds, bulking up specifically to take on more of a true nose tackle role. And by all accounts, he looked like an absolute stud out there, packed on and ready to make an impact after such a long and difficult recovery process of his own. Now let's talk about who wasn't on the field, because that matters too. Wide receiver Tyrell Shavers is starting training camp on the sideline, which was completely expected given that he tore his ankle back in the AFC wildcard game against Jacksonville. He's been placed on the active PUP list, meaning he's not yet ready to participate, but he still counts toward Buffalo's overall roster total of 91 players. Speaking of that roster number, the Bills are actually carrying one extra player this camp thanks to their International Pathway program. That player, offensive lineman turned defensive lineman Travis Clayton, made a position switch back in the spring after asking general manager Brandon Beane for the opportunity to try defense. He's now working as that 91st roster spot on the defensive side of the ball. Elsewhere, wide receiver Jalen Virgil was held out of practice today, though not due to injury. He simply hasn't passed his physical yet. Once that's cleared up, expect him back out on the field alongside everyone else. Now let's get into head coach Joe Brady's first training camp press conference of the season, because he had plenty to say and it set the tone for exactly what kind of culture he's trying to build in year one. Brady made it clear there are standards for what this team is going to be about, and when those standards aren't met, they will be addressed directly. He specifically praised Michael Hogt's rehab, calling it an incredible effort, but also noted that the coaching staff is going to have to protect Hogt from himself, given that the guy apparently doesn't have an off switch or governor on his own work rate. That's the kind of problem most coaches would love to have. Brady also addressed where the defense stands early in camp, describing progress as strong overall, though he did admit that after the spring sessions, the staff made a conscious decision to trim down the playbook menu a little bit heading into camp. His exact words were that we'll know more once pads come on next week, which tells you this coaching staff wants to see real contact and real football before making bigger declarations about where this defense truly stands. When it comes to actual position battles, Brady confirmed what a lot of Bills fans have already been circling on their calendars. The backup quarterback competition between between Max Hairston and Davison Igbinosun for the corner spots, plus the well-known left guard battle between Austin Corbett and Alec Anderson are among the headline competitions to watch. But he also made clear there are other battles bubbling beneath the surface, particularly on defense. His message to the entire roster was simple and blunt: if you want a job, go take it. He said he does not care how much money a guy makes or how many years are left on a contract. May the best player win. Plain and simple. That competitive, no-favorites mentality extended heavily into the outside linebacker rotation on day one, where the coaching staff mixed and rotated what looked like first, second, and third team players together throughout practice. Names like Michael Hocht, Greg Rousseau, Bradley Chubb, T.J. Parker, Michael Dana, and Javon Solomon were all rotating through reps with Andre Jones Jr., and others also in the mix. That's 6 or more legitimate players all fighting for spots at one single position group, which tells you this is going to be one of the most fascinating camp battles to track all summer. There was also an interesting development at nickel cornerback. While it's widely expected that Dane Jackson holds the primary nickel job as his to lose, the name lining up directly behind him on day one was safety nickel hybrid Jordan Hancock. Given that Buffalo brought in 3 safeties in free agency this offseason, there had been real questions about exactly where Hancock would fit into this defense. Seeing him get first crack at those nickel reps on day one is a notable signal worth watching as camp progresses. If he continues seeing that role expand, it likely means the coaching staff likes what they're seeing. If his reps start shifting elsewhere, that tells its own story too. Along the offensive line, there was some early rotation worth flagging as well. As expected, both Austin Corbett and Alec Anderson took reps at the open left guard spot vacated by David Edwards, who left in free agency for New Orleans. But there was also a wrinkle. Anderson was seen sliding over to take reps at right guard as well, spelling Osiris Trasancos. Whether that kind of positional flexibility continues throughout camp will be worth monitoring closely. Now let's talk special teams, because the punter competition also got underway on day one, and let's just say the conditions did nobody any favors. Veteran Mitch Wishnowsky and rookie Tommy Doman both took reps in the rain, kicking a football that was reportedly heavy, slick, and about as difficult to control as it gets. Neither punter necessarily wowed anyone on day one, but both showed flashes of the overall skill set the coaching staff will be looking for, which includes directional punting, dropping balls inside the 5, and having the leg strength to flip the field when needed. It's an important competition to track, and today was really just the first small data point in what will be a much longer evaluation process. At punt returner, the early rotation looked largely as expected, with Mecole Hardman and Keon Coleman both getting run back there, along with a couple of undrafted rookies also getting a look in that mix. But if there's one overarching theme from day one that stood out above everything else, it's the sheer aggressiveness of new defensive coordinator Jim Leonhard's approach to building this defense. He is clearly not worried about reputation, tenure, or draft status when it comes to handing out reps. Undrafted rookies were lining up right next to 9-year veterans in full-team drills, 7-on-7, and 11-on-11, all mixed together without hesitation. That all-hands-on-deck mentality will likely get sifted down as camp progresses and Leonhard gets a better feel for his personnel groupings, but in these early days, everybody is getting a real, genuine shot to prove themselves. And visually, this defense already looks the part. Spencer Brown walking around at right tackle looks like an absolute cartoon character. A mountain of a man built like Paul Bunyan himself. Deone Walker looks noticeably trimmer than before, but still an absolute mass of a human being. Add in the size and presence of guys like Landon Jackson, Zion Durant, and a visibly transformed Dwayne Carter, and it's clear this Buffalo roster has the raw physical tool set to run essentially any defensive scheme they choose to deploy. Whether that's a true 3-4, a 4-3, or some kind of hybrid look somewhere in between. So what's the big overall takeaway from day one of Buffalo Bills training camp? It's still incredibly early. It's still just shorts and helmets, no pads yet, and definitely no live tackling. But the early signs are encouraging. The energy is there. The bodies look the part. Michael Hoke's recovery looks like it might genuinely be ahead of schedule. Real competitions are already brewing at guard, at outside linebacker, at nickel corner, and at punter. And the new coaching staff, led by Joe Brady and defensive coordinator Jim Leonhard, is already setting a clear, no-nonsense tone about competition, standards, and accountability from day one. Camp is just getting started, and there is a long way to go before we know how all of these battles shake out. But if day one is any indication, this is going to be one of the most fascinating and competitive training camps Buffalo has had in years, and we are going to be here every single step of the way to break it all down for you. All right, Bills Mafia, that's the full rundown from day one of training camp. Let us know down in the comments which position battle you're most excited to follow this summer. Is it the left guard competition, the outside linebacker logjam, the nickel corner situation, or the punter battle? We want to hear it all. And if you're enjoying this kind of daily training camp coverage, do us a favor and smash that like button, drop a comment with your thoughts, and make sure you're subscribed right here at Buffalo Focus so you don't miss a single practice update all camp long. Thanks for watching Bills Mafia. Go Bills!